Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery and welcome back to my One Piece journey. I have read a ton more One Piece. Today we're going to be talking about the Thriller Bark arc, which is chapters 442 to 449. It feels so damn good to be back to these beautiful physical copies. I've just completed the 4 box set collection and I don't know whether to wait for the 5th box set or start buying volumes individually from now on, but it just feels amazing to have 2 full shelves filled up with these beautiful One Piece copies. So Thriller Bark, wow, what a mixed arc where nothing freaking happened. When that moment hit, it became so clear why in the live stream I was getting a million comments from you guys saying nothing happens in the next arc, you're gonna not enjoy it. It seems to be a bit of a community tradition I've recently put together and found out, so thank you for inviting me into the One Piece community with this trial by fire situation. Look, this arc was very mixed for me. I found it to have some of the highest highs in the series so far and some of the lowest lows, to be honest, and even a part that I found really unenjoyable, which I didn't really expect in One Piece. But overall, Thriller Bark was a very, it's One Piece, it's Oda, it's going to be entertaining no matter how you look at it. It was just a bit of a mixed bag for me in some cases. Oda wastes no time in throwing you into this arc, which is actually an entire saga, to be honest. And we are quickly introduced to the, how to describe Brook, I always say bombastic, don't I? But the bombastic skeleton, Brook, whose first line is asking if he can see Nami's underwear. Which, look, for some reason, just the way Brook delivers it and the way that Luffy immediately asks him how he ends up going to the bathroom, it's just like, I don't even understand what I'm reading right now. I'm just going to say it's One Piece and continue on with it. But look, the introduction to Brook, besides this interesting humor, was extremely intriguing. I love that, Oda doesn't just choose to throw weird stuff at you and to see if it sticks. He chooses to give you weird, but give you very interesting explanations behind it. And the explanation behind Brook losing his shadow and eating the revive fruit and learning that his shadow had a chance to find his old body, but because of the mist, he wasn't able to find it, and hence he has turned and aged as a skeleton. Like, this is really interesting world building laid upon a humorous character, which Oda just does so flawlessly and so seamlessly throughout this story, and especially throughout this arc. There's a great mix of sort of lore, magic, world building, and humor here. Just the way that Luffy immediately asks Brook to join his crew, and Brook just kind of being like, yeah, sure, why not? How could you not laugh and enjoy that moment? Besides, the awkward introductions, like, it's just such a Luffy thing to see something so out of the ordinary and being like, dude, you need to be in my crew, like a skeleton with an afro, sign me up. And from this point onwards, arriving into Thriller Bark was such a fantastic experience. The horror genre, Halloween, it's not really a massive, like Halloween itself isn't really a massive thing here in Australia like it is in the US and other parts of the world. So I've never really had a strong affinity for this aesthetic or this theme. It's cool, but I've never been like, yes, Halloween, that time of year, I love it. So I was having mixed feelings of like a whole arc of One Piece being in this kind of Addams Family-esque setting, but this is where the manga really shines, and the black and white artworks really sell this horror aesthetic. And Oda has so much fun with facial expressions and lighting changes with the characters that it really immersed you, and it made it, a fun and enjoyable way to get into more of a spooky kind of Scooby-Doo episode-esque kind of setting. And I love getting introduced to the Thousand Sunnies, all these new stations and all these new variants that Frankie has added. And the Mini Merry just won my heart over. The way they rode the Mini Merry into Thriller Bark was just so cute, and just any reference to the Merry will always win me over at any point. So whenever Oda throws those in, I'm gonna fall in love straight away. And the first sort of half of this arc was pretty much just comedy skits with the Straw Hats, kind of splitting them up between Nami, Usopp and Chopper, and the rest on the Thousand Sunny. It was great to see the kind of panicky, I don't want to say weakling, but you know, the trio of Nami, Usopp and Chopper is just the most chaotic and panicked energy, which provided some of the most funny and enjoyable scenes, like the banter with the zombies, meeting Cerberus. Like Oda was just having a blast here, and I was having a blast reading it. It was really just lots of fun little moments between these three. And watching the contrast of Luffy and the rest of the gang arriving and their interactions with Cerberus, and Luffy just having the absolute time of his life at Thriller Bark. It was pretty much like a theme park trip for Luffy, and he was just like, oh, a tree and a unicorn join my crew. Oh, what's this zombie? I'm just gonna push it back in the grave. You know, who's this guy? Is it a zombie or an old guy with severe injuries? Like, just stupid, silly humor, which brings a smile to your face after a long day at work. Kicking back and reading this just was a joy, you know. It just made me feel so relaxed, and it was nice to have a bit of fun, you know, after the intense arc of Water 7 and Enies Lobby. And from here we start to get introduced to the main villains of this arc. We get introduced to Dr. Hogback, we get introduced to Absalom, we get introduced to, well, the rest we'll hold off for now, but these two are, you know, quite interesting characters from the get-go. And we get the very uncomfortable Nami scene in the bath, where she's getting completely abused and harassed by Absalom with the clear fruit. And we start to get this story arc of Nami being kind of kidnapped and taken as a wife for Absalom. And my goodness, this is the quickest I've hated a character at all in One Piece. And you know what? It's intentional, of course. You know, you're not meant to be rooting for this guy, but my god, just the way it was done, it was very uncomfortable, as it was probably aimed to be uncomfortable. And I just wanted to see justice be served to Absalom as fast and as brutally as possible. But the problem with this, skipping ahead a little bit, I really didn't enjoy how this was framed with Sanji. You know, Sanji's always protective of his crewmates, particularly the women, if you haven't noticed yet. And you know, it's a constant like tightrope walk with the way Sanji is written in One Piece. He swoons over the girls, and that's fine, and he's trying to be a gentleman, and that's okay. Once you get into that pervy territory, you lose me pretty quick. And you know, Sanji wanting to defend Nami was fantastic, but when we get this big entrance from him, and you're like, yes, he's here, and you know, it's proclaimed that it's about Absalom having the clear fruit before Sanji, and Sanji's whole life goal was to have the clear fruit so he could perv on women. And I just hated this so much. Sanji was going through a lot of growth. It felt like he was becoming a more nuanced and respectable character to some degree. And you know, it's written as humorous, it's written as, you know, in a polite, playful way, but you know, it just falls flat for me. Like that sort of humor of just like, oh, I want to perv on people, especially in these moments that should be, you know, moments of, you know, a touching moment between the crew and their friendship and their respect for each other. It just sucked all the air out of this for me, and I kind of disengaged with the whole thing. It just became a bit of a slog to read, some eye-rolly kind of humor, and there's just a lot of pervy jokes throughout Thriller Bark, and they all just fell flat for me, if I'm honest. I love seeing the progression of people's shadows getting stolen and getting put into these weird zombie creatures that Hogback has made by, you know, the direction of Gecko Moria, who is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, which is fantastic to see. Not only 1 but 2 eventually warlords of the sea. I hope I'm saying that right, not getting warlords and emperors mixed up like I did last time. There were extremely entertaining fights here, great moments of the crew kind of just running into each other, just passing each other. This moment where Brook falls from the sky and there's a hole left in the ground, complete with his afro. I love this silly humor that One Piece provides. You know, the way that Robin was able to fly by making wings with her arms was so sick. The villains that inherited the shadows of all of our favorite Straw Hats was so freaking cool. This skeleton warrior one said he was from Wano, and I know I'm not meant to know about Wano, but I know the latest arc is called Wano, And I've heard of a villain named Kaido, and the Wano and Kaido were both mentioned during this arc. I don't know the relevance of it, but just to see that, you know, arcs that have come out in the last few years being referenced this early in Thriller Bark, I just, you know, it gets me excited to see what other groundwork Oda is laying, even in chapters previous to this that haven't even paid off yet. You can just see the care and the planning and the thoughtfulness that he takes into the story, you know, minus all the pervy jokes. There is so much substance here. I really love seeing most of the Straw Hats really stand up for what they believe in, especially Little Chopper, how he chose to really stand up to Hogback, saying, you guys run on this, I've got a problem with this guy, he's you know, he's a disgrace in the medical field, he's going against all my morals, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to take this myself. And I love it when the Straw Hats take it upon themselves to kind of say, look, I'm going to take care of this, you guys go on, this is my personal fight. And a lot of them had to do this in this arc. Moving on to one of my favorite fights in this arc was Usopp versus, I can't think of her name, but she's the Horohorohoro, that one, that one with that laugh. God, so entertaining in the anime. But it was very cool to see how her negativity ghosts had no effect on Usopp in a humorous and in a serious way too, because we really, you know, One Piece is one of those stories where you can see at surface level, have a good laugh and be like, oh, that's cool. But if you examine it just a little bit closer, spend a few more minutes kind of marinating on what's going on, you see there's so much nuance to these characters and so much thought put in. And, you know, there's been kind of a character study of Usopp going, you know, ever since the beginning, but more in depth since Water 7 and his whole Sniper King persona. And, you know, in this fight he had to reach for that persona to gain strength, and I really wonder if Oda's going to play with this sort of dual personality aspect to Usopp. He couldn't get through this fight as himself. He had to consult his sort of alter ego, but he did find strength in his depression and his negative thoughts and his self-hatred. He found strength through it and was able to use that, as the negative ghosts did not affect him, to his advantage, and he gained confidence in this fight. He used all the trickery we love Usopp for, the 10-pound fake hammer, 100-pound whatever, the fake hammer. It was great to see him use his smarts and understand that the Horohorohoro girl, her real body was elsewhere. Like, Usopp really shined here, and I freaking loved to see that. To add on to that, I just looked at my notes. Usopp's new weapon using all the dials from Skypiea. I love to see that. You know, I love references to previous arcs, because at times One Piece could feel a little episodic in the initial stages, but I love these callbacks, seeing what they've gained from previous islands, previous experiences, and bringing them into the current ones. I love to see more of that, and I can see that Oda's making that more of a priority as we get deeper into the series. Really enjoying that. And I want to take a moment here to talk about something Oda said in the SBS question corner. Somebody spoke about Luffy's gum fruit being seen in a devil fruit encyclopedia at some point, and there was this whole thing of like, if it's in the encyclopedia, they've had to have seen it before, therefore someone's probably had it. You've said, Oda, that no two powers can exist or whatever. Once you've had the devil fruit, it's gone. But he kind of said, like, once it can't exist at the same time. So it suggests that once the person dies who had the devil fruit is sort of regrown or re-emerges somewhere in the One Piece world. I don't know how that's going to play into things, but I feel like the fact that Oda answered that and addressed that leads to so many new possibilities going further in the story. As I understand it, it means if a devil fruit user dies, that devil fruit is now up for grabs again. So I just started to think of Blackbeard, I started to think of Ace, I started to think of Whitebeard, like all these, well, I don't know if Whitebeard has a devil fruit, but I started to think of people with Buggy. Oh my god, Buggy. Hope he doesn't die though, Buggy's a bit of a legend. But you know what I mean, it just makes me wonder and speculate, and that's what I love to do in these stories as well. So thank you for mentioning that, Oda, many years ago. Another great fight I really enjoyed was watching Zoro versus this ex-skeleton master, fighting it for Brook from Wano, and you know, seeing Zoro being really challenged, seeing the respect between these two swordsmen, seeing him wanting to inherit this blade, it began the beginning. I'm not known for being super articulate, but it started what was the peak of Zoro in this arc. We're going to talk about that moment soon. Let's just cut to a few other things first. From this point onwards, the arc got extremely interesting. Like, I'm talking like top tier One Piece, and it was such a relief. I was a bit worried about Thriller Bark. I'm like, is Oda dropping the ball here? Just a bit of comedy, a bit of weird humor. A lot of it was missing, and some cool world building. Brook was kind of funny, but I was like, when's this going to pick up? When is this going to reach the One Piece I know and I love? These big, huge, emotional, hard-hitting moments. And from here on, it really did deliver. And it was the urgency that Luffy's shadow being pushed into Oars, this giant behemoth of a character, brought to the story, which really, added the tension that was missing in Thriller Bark for me. Watching the desperation of the Straw Hats, the zombies, the residents of Thriller Bark all have to push together to save their comrades, to defeat this, impossible enemy, was an absolute joy to read and an absolute joy to watch in some of the anime episodes as well. The way the Straw Hats fought together in this fight against Oars was nothing short of brilliant. The way Oda had them combine their powers, use their smarts, their willpower, their pure determination, their trust in Luffy, their trust in Nami, their trust in each other to defeat this big bloody bastard was absolutely exquisite. There was a sequence where, I wrote it down here, Chopper throwing Zoro up into the air, who chops up a building, followed by Sanji, who kicks it as a Jenga attack into Oars. Like, can you ask for anything more than that? Oda, that's all I need. Give me these like ripple effect attacks and I'm just sold immediately. Nami, who had just been dealing with Kuma, who's like a whole other issue, but her coming in clutch with the climate baton, creating huge amounts of electricity, shocking people, and later combining it with Brook, making him like a lightning thunder spear. Like, my god, the combos in this fight scene were just top tier entertaining. And we get the glorious reveal of Nightmare Luffy, 100 shadows pushed into Luffy to create this Hulk-esque Nightmare Luffy edition, which was just badass. And watching Luffy pop off at the last minute never gets old. All in all, like, I don't want to recount the fight to you really, but just know I had a great time reading it. It was entertaining, the combinations were brilliant, and Nightmare Luffy was nothing short of entertaining. And you know what, seeing his shadow in Oars and him, starting off Luffy-esque and kind of morphing into this weird grunting brute was really funny too. Look, from here on we get two of the best things I've experienced in One Piece so far. One being the nothing happens moment, and two being Brook's backstory. Let's start with the whole thing with Kuma and nothing happens. Look, seeing Kuma, you're like, what the hell's this guy? He's massive. Him and Moria are like huge bastards. But the way he's introduced, saying that they need to get a new warlord instead of Crocodile, who's been defeated, and them wanting to bring in Blackbeard as the new warlord, got me immediately interested. I'm like, yes, give me the overall story. Love to see it. You see he's got the paw fruit, and you're like, okay, like the paw fruit, whatever. I'm like Robin thinking of like the cute little kittens, like what's this guy about? But you truly see once he starts to fight Zoro and Sanji how freaking powerful and terrifying he is. You see that he's been enhanced like a cyborg, similar to Frankie, and we get another mention of Dr. Vegapunk, this Navy sort of mad scientist, who I'm so damn curious about. But we immediately see how intense and formidable Kuma is, and we get this whole ordeal where he needs to, get the head of Straw Hat Luffy because, he's taken away the whole respect of the world government. He's just popping off these leaders like there's no tomorrow, right? And I loved the way that, Zoro just negotiated his way into this situation to save Luffy in the most honorable way. He's like, you know what, if I'm going to be the best swordsman in the world, if I can't even protect my captain, what's the point? And just like the amount of respect, and he's just a ride or die friend, isn't he? He's just everything you'd want in a first mate in your crew. He's everything you'd want in anybody in your life that cares about you. Like, he will do whatever it takes. And the way Oda built this scene up, he sold it so freaking well. The way, we see all the pain of Luffy from this entire fight, with Oars from his entire fight, with 100 shadows the entire time on Thriller Bark. He's been absolutely crushed in a million ways possible. And seeing it all there, and that little bubble of it going into Zoro, and how much it messed him up. To see Zoro lose his cool that much, and to scream in that way that we've really never seen before. And knowing that that's just a tiny portion of it. And the way he asks, like, I'll do it, just take me somewhere else. Like, I got chills reading this and watching it. Oh my god, another level. Seeing him build himself up and just go, the way he went in arms first, like, it was incredible to read. And just to imagine that he would do that for Luffy was one thing. But the way it progresses was just another. And this is surely one of the most iconic moments in the entire series till this day, right? It must be. I love the way that even though there's so much tension between Sanji and Zoro, it really showed that the lads respect each other, and they're like brothers that butt heads. And I love that it was Sanji to be the one who found Zoro. He woke up, he's like, where's Zoro, mate? And he finds him, and that shot of him all bloody, what happened here? Nothing at all. And you know what? I enjoyed this moment so immensely, but I was like, you bastards in the comments, I get it now. Just the gravity and the weight and the amount of subtext in this moment for Zoro. He's not doing this to get praise from Luffy. He doesn't want it, or the guilt to weigh on him. He sees no importance in it. He's just like part of his duty in his mind. But I do like that Brook saw this. I like that Sanji knows, and I know that Robin had a cheeky ear attached to Sanji. She's amazing, isn't she? That she knows about this moment too. So they know about it. Like the smarts in the crew do know about it, which I'm very satisfied with, because I hate misunderstandings and I hate people not knowing. But it was a beautiful moment. It's like raised Zoro in my estimation so much. The fact that he would do that for Luffy and his crew. He's just goated. He's just goated at this point. There's nothing else to say. And following on from that, in an arc where I hadn't cried yet, Oda made sure that he stole all of my tears to fuel his amazing story writing talent, and giving me Brook's backstory, which connects to freaking LABOON, who recently I was like, man, I would like, when somebody asked me in the stream, who would you like to see again? I was like, LABOON. What happened to that whale? Because, he built it up in a way, and I think I said it in the review, I'm like, I need this to pay off. I need this whale to get its justice and meet its old crew. And the connection between Brook and LABOON was fantastic to see. It brought such a smile to my face. But the backstory, oh my god, Oda pulls at your heartstrings like nobody else, especially with animals. He understands human relationships with animals. He really gives them a voice, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. And you just see the love that he pours into these portions of the story. I can feel Oda's heart and passion in the backstories, in all of these backstories so far. And it really comes through the page. Seeing LABOON's love of music, the whole story behind Binks's brew, or Binks's sake as I see it listed in the anime, it was a touching story. And the story of Brook and his kind of mad hatter style personality started to make a lot more sense once I really saw his journey. And the way they used, the recording dial or whatever to record Binks's brew one last time for LABOON as the band and the crew is dropping off from the plague as they're recording it, was an incredibly emotional scene, done exquisitely. I don't know why I keep saying that word, but it was done to perfection by Oda. Got the tears out of me, and it really made me empathize and sympathize with Brook. It's hard to at first. He's so comedic and so weird. It's hard to identify with him, but seeing him as a human and seeing him lose his mind over these 50 years of wandering aimlessly at sea, making himself laugh on the ship, these very few panels tied it together for me and really sold me on Brook's character, and really sold me on how socially broken he is as well. And even when he's entertaining all the guys here at the party at the end of Thriller Bark, doing his 45 degrees angle and all this stuff, he's thinking of LABOON, and he's promising him in his mind that he's going to find him again and reunite. And to me, that really tied his character together. Like, this humor is an exterior, it's a coping mechanism, it's him just like keeping his head on his shoulders. Oh god, I wanted to really make a skeleton joke there, but I couldn't. All the skeleton jokes landed with me. All that, like, I could see that, but I don't have eyes. All that stuff and his laugh, I'm sold on completely. That humor, I will never get tired of it. It will always be amazing. But look, just like the juxtaposition between his pain from his crew and LABOON and his weird humor, really sold on it. And I'm very, very glad that he's in our Straw Hat crew. A welcome addition. Join the crew, Brook. Can't wait to spend more time with you. We get that very touching scene where Zoro and Frankie and, you know, Chopper with the flowers, of course, made a lovely shrine to his deceased crew, and he could kind of get that closure that he needed to move forward, remember his crewmates, and find LABOON once again. There was an interesting moment where, you know, they're singing it, he's feeling great, and he's thinking of LABOON, and it cuts to LABOON in the present day. Great to see him, and he seemed very happy, and is it Crocus, the guy there, was like, you're seeming good spirits, LABOON. So I wonder if they still have this sort of connection between them. It was very interesting to see that. And right at the very end, as Oda tends to do, it felt like Long Ring Longland, where he throws in so much world building right at the end when Aokiji showed up. We got introduced to this Vivre Via, I forgot how exactly it said, but the piece of paper. I'm like, yes, the thing that Ace gave Luffy, finally an explanation. And it creates a connection between you and that person. And, you know, the damage on the paper shows their state, and we learn that Ace is really, really in big trouble here. And it was interesting because Kuma was very concerned about Ace, very concerned with Luffy's lineage. He, you know, references Dragon, like, Dragon, your son's got good friends, all of this stuff, all these little breadcrumb trails that I love that Oda is leaving for us. But Luffy seems kind of unfazed that Ace is in trouble, but I'm curious, like, what the hell's happening with him and Blackbeard? He really has left us with that giant fight they had in Post Enies lobby, and, you know, no elaboration besides Ace is kind of in a bad way, and Blackbeard is looking to be a warlord now, supposedly. So lots of interesting world building there. So look, I know I haven't been able to touch on everything in Thriller Bark. There's so many little moments that, you know, I feel like I'd just be recapping if I touch on everything, but hopefully this gave you an idea of my overall thoughts of this arc. Some really high highs, some lows with the, you know, stupid pervy humor, but overall a good arc in One Piece. It built up the world, it built up the crew, most of the crew members, and, you know, it gave us a new addition with a very touching backstory and connected a lot to the past. And I can tell we're building to a very, very intense and exciting future. Cannot wait to continue reading on. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all of your support, and welcome to all the new viewers who have been following this journey. The One Piece community has been so welcoming and so encouraging. I really, really appreciate all of your comments and all of your support. I'll see you very, very soon with the next arc in sweet, sweet physical volumes. Hope you've all been well, and see you in the next video.